This is Fabulously Delicious, the French food podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Pryor. Imagine a single ladle, battered, wooden, and stained with broth, so cherished that a museum preserves it as a national treasure. Behind it is the story of a woman whose onion soup and kindness carried soldiers through 2 world wars. Stay with me because you're about to meet Mère Bizolon, the woman who fed an army, inspired a city, and left a legacy that still flavors Lyon today. Clotilde Bizolon, better known as Mère Bizolon, literally Mother Bizolon, became a cherished figure for France's First World War soldiers. They even nicknamed her La Maman de Poilu, which translates quite wonderfully to the mother of the hairy. And yes, we'll get into that later. Her presence, warmth, and care turned her into a symbol of comfort for the Poilus passing through Lyon in their darkest days. Marie-Joseph Clotilde Bizolon was born on the 20th of January in 1871 in Culinary, in Ain. Her father, Jules-Marie Alexander Bizolon, worked as a shoemaker, while her mother, Marie-Jeanette Nicole, was a shepherdess. It was a modest, rural household, and those early years rooted in craft, hard work, and the rhythms of the countryside formed the quiet foundations of the woman who would later become known to France as Mère Bizolon. Coligny sits in Ain, a department that is part of Le Bresse, the former province celebrated for its iconic breast chicken, the only poultry in the world with an AOC status. This region's proud gastronomic heritage later fed directly into the traditions of the bouchon lyonnais, where breast poultry became a prized ingredient. So Clotilde's birthplace wasn't just rural, it was a cradle of French culinary identity. Clotilde, a young shepherdess herself, married Joseph Bizolon, a shoemaker, like her father. After their wedding, she followed him to Lyon, where he opened his own shop and set up their life in the bustling Perrache district. Their only child, George, was born on the 25th of August in 1891, bringing a brief period of family stability and hope. Joseph established his shoemaking business at 5 Rue Henri IV, but tragedy struck early in 1893. At just 22 years old, Clotilde became a widow, left to raise her 2-year-old son alone in a busy city far from her rural roots. It was this mix of hardship, resilience, and deep empathy that would later shape the woman remembered as Mère Bizolon. Clotilde, newly widowed and still only 22, refused to let grief define her. With thousands of soldiers streaming through Lyon during the First World War, she decided to lift their spirits in the most direct and human way she could. She began with an improvised counter, just a few planks of wood laid across 6 wooden barrels, set up in the open air and exposed to every gust of wind. When the weather turned rough, she moved inside the station hall, handing out free coffee, bread, wine, biscuits, sausages, broth, and, just as vital, a few kind words to the men who desperately needed them. As more soldiers passed through, friends and neighbours joined her efforts. Together, they built a small outdoor bar near Perrache, what Lyonnais called un pied mouillé, a wet foot. A spot where men could pause, warm up, and feel momentarily safe. The first version was makeshift in support of Lyon's mayor, WWII. A sturdier, more dignified structure was finally built. Donations followed, help from her neighbour, Madame Frachon, and Dr. Mundan, and even from a wealthy American, John Jacob Hoff. With this growing support, Clotilde founded what became known as the Soldiers' Lunch Work, a vital wartime refuge. Her daily routine became a lifeline. She served more than 1,000 lunches a day, broth, bread, coffee, wine, and over the course of the war, more than 1 million meals to soldiers and refugees passing through. Hard to imagine now, but for men living with a fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty, a bowl of soup and a moment of warmth from Clotilde could change the entire shape of the day. British soldiers passing through Lyon quickly took to Clotilde's warmth and humour giving her the affectionate nickname, the mum of the hairy, their English rendering of la maman de poilu. Poilu, literally the hairy ones, was the term that was used for French First World War soldiers, a nod to their unshaven faces and rugged life in the trenches. As her reputation grew, the Lyonnais embraced her just as warmly, calling her La Mère de Poilu, recognizing the comfort, steadiness, and almost maternal reassurance that she offered to every exhausted soldier who stopped at her counter. Clotilde's growing fame among the soldiers came with its own soundtrack. The Poilu adored her generosity, her warmth, and the way that she made even a brief stop in Lyon feel like a moment of home. To thank her, they often gathered around her counter and sang La Madelon, the wildly popular soldier's song of the era. In French, they would belt out La Madelon pour nous n'est pas sévère, quand au lui prendre la table au lamenton, elle rit, c'est tout l'amant qu'elle sait faire. Madelon, Madelon, Madelon. Désolé pour mon français. It was a cheeky, affectionate tune about a barmaid who served drinks with a smile and tolerated the soldiers, harmless and flirtatious. Light-hearted escapism for men living through the unimaginable. In English, the spirit of the song remained just as playful. When Madelon comes to serve us a drink, under the arbour we touch her petticoat, and everyone tells her a story in his own way. The Madelon for us is not severe when we take her waist or chin. She laughs, that's all the harm she knows how to do. Madelon, Madelon, Madelon. La Madelon is one of the most recognisable soldier songs of the First World War. It's a cheeky cafe concert tune that became an anthem for French troops, longing for a moment of lightheartedness amid the mud and the terror of the trenches. It tells the story of Madelon, a barmaid who serves drinks with a smile and tolerates the soldiers, their harmless flirtations, an image of warmth, normality and human connection that meant everything to the men living through the brutality of war. When these hairy soldiers gathered around Clotilde Bizolon at Lyon station, they often sang La Madelon to her as a way of expressing gratitude. They weren't comparing her to the flirtatious heroine of the song. They were honouring her as the heart of their brief moments of joy, comfort and escape. For them, the melody became a musical thank you, a way of saying that her kindness mattered. In the middle of a war defined by fear and exhaustion, this playful tune became a symbol of resilience. Clotilde's devotion to the soldiers was tested in, well, the most devastating way in 1915. At the very beginning of the First World War, tragedy struck again, and in March of that year, her only son, Sergeant George Bizolon, was killed at just 24 years of age. Clotilde was now 44, already a widow, and now found herself, well, completely alone. Before leaving for the front, George had made her promise that she would continue her work for the soldiers, even if the worst had happened to him. When the news of his death arrived, Clotilde kept that promise. She threw herself even more fiercely into her service at Perrache, at the station, using work as the only way to bear the weight of her grief. In honouring her son's wish, she transformed personal loss into an even deeper compassion for every soldier who passed her counter. Prematurely, aged by grief and relentless work, became known among the troops as the mother of the soldier and the most disadvantaged. Despite having a little herself, she moved heaven and earth to secure the funds needed to keep her canteen going, as more and more soldiers gathered around it each day. For those soldiers, her counter wasn't just a place for hot coffee, broth or bread, or even chocolate in some instances. It was a place to unburden themselves, to share fragments of their war, and to receive the steady, compassionate presence that she offered so naturally. Word of mouth quickly spread. Soon her humble stand became a vital refuge for the men passing through Lyon. A 1917 newspaper article captured her daily reality with striking clarity. It describes a primitive, improvised buffet, 2 chairs holding up a plank, jugs of steaming coffee and chocolate, a wheelbarrow filled with bread, sugar, and mismatched cups, all exposed to the wind. Behind it stood a fragile little creature, a working woman in a blue apron and black skirt, no hat, who had been there since 4 in the morning, serving hot drinks for free until noon. When her shift ended, she didn't rest. She went into the city to continue her work because, as the article noted, she had no fortune, only a mother's heart, generous, calm, and strong. Through tears, she explained why she returned every day. She said, "Yes, it is for him that I come here every morning," meaning her beloved son, killed at the front. Then, with a smile breaking through her sorrow, she would call out to the next soldier, "Come, come, my brave little hunter. Chocolate coffee? No, here we don't pay." After the war, Clotilde quietly reshaped her life once again by transforming her late husband's former shoemaker's shop into a modest bouchon lyonnaise, the kind of small convivial eatery that would later become emblematic of Lyon's culinary identity. Even as she returned to civilian life, her instinct to care for others never faded. She continued to involve herself in numerous charities, offering the same generosity and warmth that she had shown the soldiers. Her little bichon became not just a place to eat, but a continuation of her lifelong mission, creating comfort, community, and dignity for anybody who walked through the door. A quick little pause, fabulous listeners. If you're enjoying the show and want even more French food goodness in your life, then come and join me over on my fabulously delicious Substack. For those of you who might be new here, I was lucky enough to be a contestant on MasterChef Australia back in, well, I think it was 2013. Yes, no, it was. And that experience completely changed the direction of my life in food. Not long after, I packed up and moved to France, and I've now lived here for more than 10 years. These days, I call the French countryside home, where I host intimate cooking classes and culinary experiences, sharing regional dishes, traditions, and little secrets that I've learned from living and cooking here in France. Substack is where I share the extra bits that don't always make it onto the podcast. My favorite French food finds, restaurant tips, recipes that I'm testing, behind the scenes stories from life in rural France, and all the delicious gossip that comes with being immersed in French food culture. Think of it as the bonus course to your weekly audio entree, which is fabulously delicious. A little more personal, a little more detailed, and very, very French. You can subscribe for free, or you can go paid if you'd like to support the podcast and help me bring you more French food stories every week. Every paid subscription generally makes a difference, so merci beaucoup to those paid subscribers. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can go to andrewpryorfabulously.com for more information. Come for the croissants and stay because, well, you're fabulous. If you love discovering the very best places to eat, wander, and indulge in Paris, well, I have something rather delicious for you. My book, Paris, A Fabulous Food Guide to the World's Most Delicious City, has just been newly updated, and it's bigger and better than ever. The new edition offers over 100 additional pages exploring the history of food in Paris, so you can understand not just where to eat, but why Paris became the gastronomic capital of the world in the first place. Alongside my favorite boulangeries, patisseries, fromageries, wine bars, markets, restaurants, and hidden gems, you'll now also find dedicated sections for vegan and vegetarian dining in Paris, beautiful food with a view spots for those unforgettable meals, and even a special highlight of locations featured in Emily in Paris. So you can dine where they dined and sit where Emily sipped. It's the guide I wish I'd had when I first started exploring Paris, full of personal recommendations, trusted addresses, and the kind of places that make you close your eyes after the first bite. You can order your copy directly from my website, andrewpryorfabulously.com. It's also available on Amazon, and if you prefer to shop locally, simply ask your favourite independent bookstore to order it in for you. Supporting local bookshops is always a fabulous idea. So, if a trip to Paris is on your horizon, or you simply want to dream about one from your kitchen table, Paris, a fabulous food guide to the world's most delicious city, is your delicious companion. Clotilde's modesty only seemed to amplify her fame. By the late 1920s, she had become such a beloved figure in Lyon that in 1929, Prime Minister Edward Herriot awarded her the Legion d'Honneur, recognizing her as one of the city's great humanitarians, and in the eyes of many, the unofficial patron saint of the bouchons lyonnais. A formal ceremony followed at Lyon City Hall on the 18th of January in 1930, honouring not just her wartime service, but the years that she had spent comforting the wounded, the blind, and the forgotten. After the Second World War, a commemorative plaque was placed at Lyon Perrache station to ensure that every traveller passing through would remember the woman who had once stood there in all weather, offering warmth to those who needed it most. A local newspaper captured the public's admiration in a glowing tribute. It described her as the mother of the soldier, Mère Bizolon, insisting that women like her must be known and honoured by all French people. The article painted a vivid picture of grateful former soldiers crowding her tiny shop on Rue Honoré IV. The moment news of her decoration spread, filling it with joy and affection. It recalled how she had comforted around 1,000 soldiers a day during the war, using her own meagre income, the help of neighbours, and the unexpected generosity of strangers to keep her work alive. Even after the armistice, she continued visiting hospitals daily, especially tending to the wounded and the blind. The journalist marvelled at the more than 100,000 letters that she had received from soldiers over the years. Men who still wrote to her, visited her, and embraced her like a mother. Her legacy, the journalist wrote, was one of pure charity, patriotism, and a heart that never stopped giving. Marlene Dietrich added an unexpected and, glamorous footnote to Clotilde's legacy when she performed La Madeleine in Paris during the 14th of July celebrations of 1939. By then, the song had been long associated with the soldiers who adored Clotilde and sang it to her at Lyon Station as a gesture in gratitude and of their affection. Dietrich's performance on the eve of another looming war gave the tune a renewed emotional charge. Hearing one of the world's most famous entertainers sing the very song that was once dedicated to Clotilde linked her humble wartime canteen in Lyon to a moment of national celebration in Paris, underscoring just how deeply her story and the soldier's song had woven themselves into French memory. Clotilde entered the Second World War already a legend in Lyon. Between the two wars, she had continued running her tiny shop, once her husband's shoemaker's workshop, now a modest bouchon. And people travelled from far beyond the city just to meet the woman decorated with the Legion d'Honneur. Tens of thousands of soldiers from across the world had passed through her hands during the First World War. Americans, English, Canadians, and countless others who stopped at Lyon remembered her with international affection. Postcards bearing her image circulated globally, turning her into one of the most recognizable figures of France. Her charitable work only deepened this admiration. Newspaper articles of the time captured the scale of her impact. One 1930 piece described her as the mum of soldiers, recalling how she had begun her work on the 11th of August in 1914 at 3 a.m, pushing a wheelbarrow filled with coffee and chocolate to the station platform. For 5 years, she repeated the same ritual, serving steaming bowls from a plank balanced on 2 chairs, visiting hospitals in the afternoon, and refusing every coin that was offered to her. It's not up to those who will fight to pay, she insisted. Her popularity spread through the army as soldiers shared their stories of the welcome that they received from her in Lyon. The article also reminded readers of her origins, a shepherdess for Légion, who, through sheer will and compassion, became one of the most moving symbols of Lyon's charity and patriotism. When the Second World War broke out, Clotilde was 68 and had already hung up her apron. But the moment soldiers once again filled the station, she returned to her post without hesitation. The great coffee pot was back in service, like in 1914, though this time the soldiers were no longer called hairy. She served mulled wine, coffee, broth, bread, chocolate, tea, biscuits, whatever donations that allowed. Lyon's population rallied around her, and municipal support ensured that she never lacked supplies. Yet age was catching up with her. Her legs weakened, and standing for long hours became difficult. Even so, she persisted, driven by the same boundless heart that had defined her life's work. Sadly, Clotilde Bizolon's life ended in tragedy that shocked Lyon. On the 29th of February in 1940, she was violently assaulted in her home. A delivery man, alarmed by faint moans behind her door, discovered her gravely injured and bleeding. She was taken to the hospital in Lyon, where she died on the 3rd of March in 1940, aged 69. The crime was never definitely solved. At the time, police suspected a one-legged man arrested for an unrelated matter who died shortly afterwards in custody, likely by suicide. Authorities labelled him the probable murderer, though no testimony or evidence ever confirmed this. Years later, a witness came forward claiming he had seen a rather tall soldier leaving the service door behind Clotilde's home on the night of the attack. But in the chaos and disorganisation of early war France, this testimony was never taken, leaving her death shrouded in uncertainty and sorrow. Lyon responded to her death with overwhelming grief. Her funeral was held at the Basilica of St. Martin, one of the city's most historic churches. Hundreds attended, described in the press as mourners, a testament to how deeply she had touched the lives of ordinary people and soldiers alike. After the service, she was laid to rest, joining her husband and son. The ceremony was solemn, dignified, and profoundly emotional. The city's sense of having lost not just a charitable figure, but a maternal presence who had comforted generations of soldiers. The day after her death, Lyon entered a period of collective mourning. The famous soldiers' lunch at the Hotel Terminus closed its doors. Above it, the French flag draped in a wide band of black crepe. Veteran associations, city councillors, and thousands of Lyonnais filed past her coffin to pay their respects. Newspapers described the emotion in the city as immense, a grief that would take a long time to subside. Many believed that her generosity had made her appear wealthier than she was, perhaps attracting the wrong kind of attention. Others thought the crime was the act of a disturbed individual. What remained certain was the depth of affection that she inspired. Soldiers from across France and abroad had written to her more than 100,000 letters over the years, and many continued to visit her shop simply to embrace her like a mother. In death, as in life, Clotilde was honoured as one of Lyon's most beloved figures, a symbol of compassion, patriotism, and unwavering human kindness. After the Second World War, Lyon ensured that Clotilde's legacy lived on in the fabric of the city itself. A street in the second arrondissement was named in her honour, placing her memory directly into the daily life of the neighbourhood that she had served so faithfully. The Musée Gardin also preserved one of her most symbolic objects, the great ladle that she used to serve broth, coffee, and chocolate to thousands of soldiers, treating it as a treasured artifact of Lyon's humanitarian history. Her birthplace likewise commemorated her by naming a street after her as well, linking her rural beginnings to this extraordinary life that she later built in Lyon. These gestures ensure that her story remains visible, not only to historians, but to the ordinary people, the same streets she once knew and walked along. Now they walk along them as well. In front of Perrache station, where her legend was born, the city erected a dedicated board and zinc shelter with an outdoor counter and fireplace to house her enormous coffee pot, an architectural tribute to the woman who had once stood there in all weather, offering warmth to strangers. During the war, this refreshment bar became a lifeline, a simple prefabricated structure where Mère Bizolon served drinks, soup, coffee, tea, chocolate, bread, and whatever delicacies that she could find and donations allowed. Her broths and sausages became a part of local law, and her onion soup, served steaming to exhausting soldiers, was remembered as common currency. Like the future bouchon lyonnaise, her fare was humble, hearty, and rooted in generosity rather than luxury. The simplicity of her food reflected the simplicity of her mission to nourish, comfort, and restore dignity to those who pass through Lyon in their darkest hour. If you'd like a little more fabulously delicious between episodes, then come join me on Instagram. I'm at Andrew Pryor Fabulously. That's where I share bite-sized French food history, fun facts, behind-the-scenes moments, and plenty of everyday life in France. It's the perfect little snack between podcast courses. And if you prefer to watch the podcast as well as listen, you can find full video episodes over on YouTube. Same stories, same deliciousness, just with my face attached. More food, more stories, and more fabulousness. Come join the party. It's très strollable. Et voila, that's the end of this episode of Fabulously Delicious. I'm Andrew Pryor, and thank you for joining me as we honoured the remarkable life of Mère Bizolon, the woman whose generosity, broth, and bravery shaped Lyon's culinary soul through 2 world wars. If her story moved you, inspired you, or made you crave a steaming bowl of onion soup at a Lyonnaise bouchon, marvellous. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave a review, share it with a fellow Francophile, and come and say bonjour. I always love hearing from you. If you'd like to explore more stories connected to this one, you might enjoy my episodes that I've done on the Mères Lyonnaises, the story of Eugène Brézé, and the story of Paul Bocuse, of all of which dive deeper into Lyon's extraordinary culinary heritage. Just search on the podcast platform that you're using now. Until next time, eat well, stay curious, and remember, life is better with butter, they say. And as I always say, whatever you do it fabulously. Merci beaucoup, bon app, et à très bientôt.